Energy experts say in the rush to adopt renewable energy, Africa may be overlooking cost savings and as well as the efficiencies of gas. The African gas sector is expected to boom as the region begins to recover economically and investment increases. Governments in West African countries are now increasing their efforts to secure stable gas supply. This is expected to enhance power generation capacity and rely less on revenue generated by crude oil. Meanwhile, gas discoveries are stimulating sector growth and infrastructure development in Mozambique, Kenya and Tanzania. For more on this story, we cross to our reporter Liabo Setho in Cape Town. Good afternoon, Liabo. Gas coming to the forefront of your discussions today.
Good afternoon, Zinga. Yes, gas making, a big appearance at this conference, but it's obviously to be expected because it has now been identified as one of the cost-effective measures that we can use to fuel our economies, and it's quite also very efficient, some of the experts have said here at this conference, which is at its second day today. I've invited Mr. Dwayne from the Africa Oil and Power. He's the CEO there. To just tell us a little bit more of the kind of advantages that are there, particularly for African economies, in investing and looking towards more into gas. Dwayne, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
I've mentioned to our viewers there about the benefits that this conference has heard about the gas economy and how much it could, make things move for the African economies. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, I think what's important to recognize here is that the abundance of natural gas on the African continent is huge. You're talking about a very large and proven base that can be exploited and can be monetized for the benefit of all Africans. Half of African countries have a proven natural gas resource base, and there are probably others that have yet to even try exploiting them. So what we have tried to say through this conference since its origins is that there is a great story to be told through natural gas to power, and that is certainly something that is happening here in South Africa through the IPP office and the Department of Energy. The understanding that electricity is not a one-size-fits-all solution, that it's all of the above. Yeah. It's coal, it's renewables, and it's gas, and it's also anything above ground and under the sun.
Yeah. So yesterday we talked a lot about the misfortunes that oil abundance also brought us when the price of the Brent crude oil started plummeting. Can we foresee such challenges with gas in future, or is it a safe commodity?
Well, I think oil and gas have always been inextricably linked. So if oil prices drop, traditionally gas prices have dropped as well. I think right now there's a huge abundance, a very large supply of natural gas in the world. But if it's being put to use, then we'll be able to see prices rising, demand rising, but of course, people's homes being powered, people's homes being heated, cooled, and good things overall for the African continent.
One of the biggest challenges with big infrastructure projects such as gas and oil is the funding of it. Is the private sector willing to fund these kind of projects? Are governments even open to this, not only the South African government, but African governments in general?
Well, absolutely. And I think if you look at what's taking place right now in South Africa, you've got an unbelievable template for what other African countries can do. The work of the IPP office here in South Africa, working within the Department of Energy, gives you an idea of how public-private partnerships can operate. We're talking partnerships between the government, between the financial institutions and the power developers that are ultimately building this very large infrastructure that leads to power facilities.
Graham, thank you very much for making time to speak to us. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. Zinga, that was the CEO of Africa Oil and Power. They are responsible, obviously, for this conference here. And he was speaking to us about the importance of the gas economy, particularly on the African continent, and has made good examples of how private-public partnerships can work in making sure that big projects such as developing a gas economy can work. And it's back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Liabo, keeping us updated on that conference. You will continue giving us updates until it ends. It's time for a short